Right, hello, welcome back to the next video. Thank you for the nice responses on the last one. As I'm sure if you watched it, you would be able to tell. We started integrating these two scenes together, and I'll probably continue that with this video. Starting with down here, this is starting to annoy me a little bit, the look of it. So first things first, got to decide what I'm doing with this. It's going to be a bit of a pain. I think this is all going to be enclosed, so the incline's down. I will probably make the tunnel portal a bit taller so that you can see in, maybe make it an arch. Not 100% yet, just so that you can see down there a bit better. And this section will be open to the side. So I suppose with some of this brick sheet, it will be sort of in there, and that'll sort of be what you can see. It'll have to go on the inside just to give me the most width. So what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to box this out with some thin ply, just so I don't lose much space. This portal is wide enough, as you can see, plenty of room for the trains to go through. So that gives me a good guide to work from, so I can put some wood in and it can stick out as much as this. And obviously then line it out, same on the other side as well. So that basically, I just made this as a bit of a support to work off of. So obviously it'll all be clad, it'll all be a brick sort of front with it cut out, and then of course it'll have some sort of brick sort of support structure at the top to stop people obviously falling to a very flat squashed death. So yeah, I think we will try and leave this full width for now, and I'll box this in and we'll see how it looks basically. So here's the plan then. I've cut down some 3mm hardboard. I'll take this off, which will sit under there to just box it off. Obviously I need to screw it in this way because this should push up against there like that. That's the reason I've used the 3mm, is so that it's flexible. I've then trimmed this end piece down, and if I can get them in the right place again, then they fit together quite nicely eventually. So yeah, that fits roughly there. You can see it goes up to the top, and it sort of fits against this corner piece quite well. Ignore that little gap, that'll be taken up with glue or resin, and of course a load more brick sheet just for now. But when it all butts up, it looks all right. You'll have to take my word for it because I can't do it with one hand, but that's got to work all right. And then obviously that'll all be boxed off. As I say, I'm thinking of enlarging the tunnel portal just so you can see in, and of course I've got to box off the bit in here and do the inside walls as well. So I'm not going to secure down the top level just yet, so that I can get in there and put the bricks in, just so that when the trains run in, you can't see that the tunnel stops. So yeah, obviously I use the same stuff. That'll go inside internally, sort of like that, to box the tunnel off. You get what I mean. So I think that'll work. So I've made a bit of an arch for the tunnel entrance, and I've shaved down the walls on the side. Obviously this will all be built up with plasticard, brick sheets and stuff, but I figured if I put an arch there, it will look a bit different to a square opening. Plus of course you'll be able to see right down in the tunnel. The two S-stocks are hiding down there. This wall is now screwed in to this side of the layout, so obviously it follows the sort of shape, and I think that's going to look all right. I've got to of course put sort of overhang in this piece as we've got that end, and then build it at the front as well, as if this is like a big sort of bridge area. I decided to keep this full width in the end. It's just too much ag, and I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but now I sign Euston Station for driving, and there's a tunnel called Park Street. So you've got Park Street Tunnel and Park Street Lower Tunnel, which is lower down. And this is what gave me the idea for this, because Park Street Lower Tunnel has an arch, and then it's got quite a lot of brickwork above it. It's not an arch with the roads up here somewhere, so it's quite sort of deep down, and that sort of made me think that it won't look too silly actually once it's done. So I'm going to kind of go for that sort of idea. I found some more wood batten, which you can see I've drawn some lines across so they're all even width, and this is cut so it fits nicely in there. What I'm going to do basically to save material is I'm going to cut along here and I'm going to make individual sections. So we'll have this piece here which will be screwed in from underneath, and then this side piece will screw into that. Then we'll have a gap, and then we'll have another piece here which I suppose it'll have to span 2 sections, and then we'll do the same along the top, just to bring this out basically. So obviously it's just to give you an idea, it's going to be that sort of width sticking out of there, which will sort of integrate it into that a little better. Of course I'm going to cut this down, hence the line there, but also it gives me the width on the top to add the second platform that I want. I could get away with just having the one piece here, that would be wide enough for a second platform. I measured it out and it would look right. The problem there is there would be nothing to support this, so it would just flop about and not really work. So I'm going to do this. Then we'll of course have a retaining wall all the way along here. I'm not going to use these rubbish ones, but it will sit about there, because I'll probably use a thinner sort of setup. But even with this thick stuff, there's still plenty of room for a coach to come around here and have enough clearance to the wall. So I'm pleased with that. But yeah, so I'm going to chop these up, basically put them in place, cut this down. And then, so this is 12mm ply at the back. At the front, I'll just use probably scraps, whatever I can find. Probably 6mm or 9mm. It doesn't need to be very strong, but that should tie it all in. And once I'm happy, I'm basically going to get this bit in first and then see how I feel, and then I'll work my way this way. So basically I'll have this piece in the middle like that, and then it'll overlap, so when I want to come and do the next piece and go that way, it'll all be there ready for me to just screw into. So in theory that'll work nicely. But yeah, so I'm going to chop these up and screw them in position. Fingers crossed that will work. So with a bit of Slater's brick plastic card, you can get the general idea. It looks a bit better. Of course we need to put some detail on so it's not all completely flat and boring. And obviously, as I say, we'll have this face going up here. But yeah, you get the idea with the arch now, with it offset. And as I say, you'll be able to see down in there nicely. So I think that'll make for a good viewing point, especially once I've lined the inside. So I've put these brick strips on now to break it all up a bit, and it looks a lot better for it. I've also put them down here. I've not put them under here because of course we're going to have a bit dropping down there. That's why this is this height, because this is the right height where if we do another one of these bits, which is I believe 6 centimeters, then that will sit on that, so it almost look like a bit of a support. So that's the idea behind that. The top section has got a piece of pine in there, cut to size just because it's a spare bit of wood I had. And then it's brick on the back as well. So this is going to be like the sort of wall to look over. It's not, you can see it's wobbly at the minute. That is so that I can still take the top section out. You can see it slots in. So I'm going to leave that like that for now, because it's handy being able to get this out. But what I'm currently doing is making the infill piece for the inside, because if I do take this out, you can see the setup in there. It's a bit of a mess really. But I'm just making this piece out of some more hardboard because I can cut it with the Stanley blade, and it's late at night at the minute, so I don't really want to be using any power tools. But you can see obviously that's a straight section. I'll do another bit for this wall, and then I'm going to have to try and make some sort of curved arch roof for that, which I'm planning on having a short section of curved roof and then it boxing off further inside with a girder going across. I think that will sort of finish it off nicely. You can just see the 2S stock hiding down there. But yeah, the idea there is you look in, as far as you can see, it will all be lined. So hopefully that's going to go to plan. So I'm going to do the other one of those now. Of course, I'm going to have to line that with brick as well. and then try and work out how on earth I'm going to do the roof section, but we'll see. So there we go then, the tunnel is looking pretty cool. So the left hand wall is in. If I just lift up the top for a little bit of light, you can see a little better. The right hand side, of course, I've got to do, and then I've used some styrene, like an I-beam sort of box section, to run along the wall. I've cut one side of the channel off so it fits flush against the wall, and that basically is there to support the roof structure, and then down the end it will of course support the girders. So as I say, I'm going to put some wheels girders further down, so it's going to look like that inside, so when you peer in you'll basically see that. It just gives it a bit of variety. I think you do get that sort of stuff on the Met. I believe I've seen something like that around Baker Street or something like that. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But yeah, that's you can see a better view now of that wall carrying on around. It's going to be a nightmare to get some weathering on it and pick out the mortar and stuff now that it's glued in place. But I don't really have much choice. I'm just going to have to grin and bear it. But yeah, I think that's going pretty well. Another thing I've just thought of, because I've got that bit down the back there, which will of course be hidden, I could always add some tunnel lights, couldn't I? A bit like the real thing, which turn on every now and again. That'd be quite a cool little idea. So maybe I could think about doing something like that. Of course, they would go along and sit underneath that girder, and then I could have a little switch somewhere, or I could do it off the DCC bus even. And then when I feel like it, switch the tunnel lights on. Might make for a cool little photo, who knows? But I'm pretty pleased with how this is going so far. So I'm just filling this gap in at the front now, a bit more hardboard. As you can see, it's only thin stuff. That's gonna slot in there nicely, about there. And then of course, once it's lined with brick, it should hopefully meet up with this piece fairly well, and get rid of the gap. And then I'm just gonna hot glue that in place. That will also, of course, help stop this depressing just a fraction, because you can just about move the track bed up and down very slightly. It's got a little bit of spring to it. The supports are there and up here somewhere, so you've got that little bit of deflection. So it'll just help with that. So I'm going to do this on both sides. I'm just going to get some more brick paper over that, brick sheet, sorry, and hopefully that will do the job and fill all that in. And then of course I've got to come along and I've got to build this front face up as well, because that's also got to be boxed in. So it's going to be like a step up, but it's just sort of part of what I've got to do really to fill in the blanks, I suppose. But yeah, so I'm going to chuck some brick sheet on that and we'll get that in. Right, that's those walls in. So it all just adds to it, as you can see. So obviously it's just grey primered, and I've only been painting it with a little bit of sort of paper in front of the track, sort of like that, just to keep the paint off the main track area. Hence, there is some overspray on the scenery, but of course I'm going to go over all that, so don't worry about it. I do need to make some capping stones for the top of all the walls, so I'll have to do that at some point. I might just see if there's anything out there that I can buy just to save me the aggro, basically. So now that they're in, I'm going to start getting this first section in. So of course you saw that I cut all the blocks yesterday just to go in there, just to space it out the required amount I need. That's then going to allow me to have the width here for the platform on the top level, which is of course going to split in half for this half of the layout to be able to come out, obviously, so there will be a join line down it, but I do have a plan for that. I'm going to use the same sort of stuff as the other side, which is 15mm pine, because it's the right size, and of course you get a nice join because it's cut well, it's nice and straight. So I'm going to use that for the platform edge. That will basically sit along the edge of the baseboard, and then the other piece here will butt up against it, and then I'll use some more to obviously fill it in, as well as maybe some fiberglass. But now I'm going to undo the screw in the back of here and the screw under there. This piece, this whole bit will then slide out this way. I'll then screw the blocks in, so we'll have one there, another one there, and then I can put the front piece on, which will allow me to put the deck on the top. So hopefully that's going to work. That's this all in then, that bit of wood there. Of course, as I say, I've got to continue it on this direction. That's no problem. I will get round to that, but we're going to concentrate on this main area first, of course. We've got this little flat section down here, and Anthony gave me a good idea. I could put an access point from the high level down to the low level with like a spiral staircase or something like that. I don't know if I could fit a spiral one in the space. It might be a bit too narrow for that. But worst case, I could fit a standard staircase. But I just think it'd add to a bit of, add to sort of scenic interest, really. And then, of course, so you would access from the station, and then you go through a gate and then down, and that's how like PWA guys and stuff could get down there. It's just a little access point for them, or drivers, or whichever, really. Just something a bit different, and obviously it gives you a reason for this little flat area then. But yeah, obviously this wall is all in. That's all looking good. We've put this extra little sort of sandwich piece in. The girder's going across now as well to fill that bit in. And of course we'll need a little bit more fencing just to cover this gap. But that does obviously give me the option of, if I want to at some point, I could build another staircase similar to this one down here to this platform. And then we could of course maybe extend this building inside here, like extend it out a little bit. Not sure if I want to do that, because I don't really want to cut into this because it's so nice, and I quite like the little graffiti bit around the back, as most of you have probably seen by now. Maybe I should change it to TT. But yeah, looking good, looking good. Right, ignoring the mess, we've got all this brickwork on. Pleased with where that's sitting. It's just got a little bit of a lip over the top here, so once I put some coping stones on or whatever, it'll look nice. Just starting on the little bridge bit that sticks out now. So I've put an underneath on it, which is just hardboard. That's all on there and trimmed to shape. I've put a little piece on here, as you can see, because it wasn't quite flush with the top section. As we've got a nice little Metropolitan train running around in the background. Have to excuse the noise. And yeah, I'm using a bit of styrene sort of channel, the sort of H-shaped stuff that I use for a bridge girder to go across. And I'm using these girder pieces on top, and then this is going to be brick sheet, same as this stuff. But at the minute I'm finally securing the top of this down. You can see in there it's just literally a bit of a crude sort of setup. It's just enough basically to allow me to do this. So I've just popped these bits of paving off, because I'm going to put the screws under there, because this is going to be permanent anyway. The reason I changed this piece, because I did have the screws under where the pavement is on this section, I changed it so the screws are here. The thinking was I can at some point hide them with something like a manhole cover or something like that on either side. But for now it allows me to take this top board off if I need to get underneath to work on stuff, which I will need to at some point. But yeah, so we're going to finally secure this down fully, and then, as I say, we're going to clad this side so it'll look nice from this angle. Moving on then, we are starting to get there. We've got all the brick along the side. You can see also, if I zoom in, I did get the bridge sorted. So we've got the girders in there, we've got the U-channel, and obviously the brickwork, which is the same stuff I'm using here. This is the wheel stuff. So this is just one big sheet with a slit down it for where the boards need to separate. So you can't see it too obviously, which is lucky. And then again, just a strip across just to give it a bit of variation. And then painted it with a mixture of paint that I sort of mixed up. So I use one of these colour palette things. Colour palette? I forget what we call them now. Like a mixing palette thing. And basically I use this colour here for brick. But what I do is I'll use up most of the paint and I won't wash it out. So then when I want to mix up another colour the same, I'll obviously mix it in there, and when it matches all the remnants on the outside, I know I'm pretty good. So I'll do that, which is basically some, I think I use Humble 15 paint, a bit of black, and maybe a little bit of grey. I can't remember exactly, but I think that's what I do. Paint that all on nicely, get it all in the joins and that, a bit like this. This is the same shade. Well, believe it or not, this is the exact same paint as that. So I'll paint it all on quite sort of rough. I mean, this, you can see I was starting to run out here, so this will have to be given a decent coat. And then I'll let that dry. I will go over the whole thing with some Halford's, I think I used Halford's gloss lacquer actually. So I made sure to paint the girders and stuff as well before I did that. So yeah, painted the brickwork, painted the girders a base blue colour, again, which is something I mixed up. And then once it was all dry, went over it, masked up, went over it with some Halford's gloss lacquer to seal all this paint in. From there, obviously, we can then work on a mortar wash. So for a mortar wash, I used there's a concrete paint. Let me grab that. It's up here. I have used white previously, and I find it's just too bright. So now I use this, which I think I got it from Hobbycraft. It's meant to be like a concrete shade. Yeah, concrete there. So it's just a bit off-white, so it looks a little bit better. So I paint that over quite sort of rough and ready. I masked up the girder bridge and that, so I didn't get any on there. And paint that over really rough. Then I got some kitchen towel and just basically wiped the main amount off until it was fairly good. And then what I did, because you'll smudge basically the concrete paint along the bricks, so it will sort of all blend in. So from there I got a bit more kitchen towel, a little dab of IPA alcohol on there, and I just went down, and that just takes the rest of the paint off the brick faces but leaves it in the mortar. Obviously if you take a little bit too much off, don't worry, just chuck a little bit more paint on the bare sort of bits and then go again. So then yeah, kept doing that. And then to finish off, I've started to now use weathering powder, and I bought myself one of these. I think I got it from Hobbycraft, and it's actually brilliant. So I just use the soot on the little applicator, which looks like this. So here's the little applicator. You can see I use one side for white, one side for soot. So just basically dab it in there, and then I've just been going up and down, and you can see it gives a nice effect there. To do the girders, I've been using the white and been sort of swirling it around in the centre, and then sort of taking a little bit off of my finger to get the desired effect. And then I've been using an old paintbrush I've got, which I knackered, so it's quite sort of solid. And I've been putting that in the rust and sort of dabbing that on in certain places. And as well as that, I did get some panel line. Let me go up here again. So you can get Tamiya stuff, but you can never bloody find it. So I found this in a model shop, and it's the same kind of thing. It's just a very thin sort of enamel wash almost. You paint it on and it goes in all the nooks and crannies. And then again, a bit of kitchen towel, you can just take off what you don't want. And that's what we're left with. So I have done both sides, as you can see. I've even put a little pigeon on there. And obviously I've done the insides as well. I've got sort of the paving out. But now the attention is going to focus on all of this piece. So obviously the way I did the wall, it was looking very plain and you could see the joins in the plasticard. So what I'm doing is I've gone and marked 15 centimetre sections, which does happen to be pretty much on the joins anyway. Where I've cut this one, obviously you can see it's slightly out. However, we're going to come to that in a second. So I wanted to put some sort of supports in. So I've got some styrene stuff from Anthony at AGR. He came and brought me a little care package of stuff last night. Now these are the right width I want and the right sort of depth. However, obviously in reality I would prefer a piece of sort of square box, but you get what you're given. Obviously I'm going to clad it with brick, but these are going to sit sort of like that on each one. Hence, obviously it doesn't matter that that one's a bit out because it will hide it. And that will just make it look like the wall has got some sort of supports in. And for the top, I'm going to use some U-channel. So he bought me some of that as well. I believe this is the 6.8mm stuff. If I get on the end, you'll be able to see what it is a bit better. There you go, kind of. And this is going to go over the top as like a capping stone sort of setup. So that will obviously tie that in all nicely, hopefully, and make that top piece straight. And then obviously I can scribe in some bricks and so on, some stones, sorry. And yeah, so basically I'm going to work all the way along there. I'm going to put some brick sheet on and hopefully at the click of a finger, it will all work. There we go then, there's the wall. We've got all the supports in. It's all painted up with a bit of soot thrown over it to tone it down a little bit because it was very bright initially. I think you'll agree, it looks really good. I've painted this little top piece in a sort of concrete colour as like a sort of capping sort of stone bit for the wall. I haven't bothered putting individual sort of bits in for individual stones or tiles or whatever because I thought, well, we'll just leave it as one long concrete piece. It's just a bit easier. But I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. It obviously blends in with the upper section fairly well now. All looks quite good going that way. You can see as well, for now I've fit the girders in this section. I haven't put the bricks in yet because that's the next job. So I've got to put the bricks in there, obviously do the same sort of process. And then we're on to static grass on all of this. And then once that's sorted, we can put some shrubbery and all that sort of stuff on and then get the ballast on down here and really tie it all in. So a little bit's changed since the last clip. As you can see, we're looking quite well finished off now. I did end up putting the brick in here for this wall. Obviously, I still need to put this little strip piece in that I've been doing, but that's something that I can slot in at a later date. I've only put the bare sheet up because I still need to take this panel in and out. You can see that I have indeed now ballasted down on this piece of track down here. That obviously finishes it off nicely. I've also put some sort of green scattering, as you can see. And when this is all completely dry, because I only did it last night, then I will come along and I'll give it the same sort of treatment as this with some bushes along the side. And of course, these walls need a bit of greenery on them as well. But this is N-Gauge DCC Concepts Legacy Ballast, in case you wondered. I'm quite pleased with how it looks, really. Once it's all toned down, I think it's going to be quite smart. And it'll give that nice sort of look to it. Obviously it goes well with a nice weathered loco in the shop. This is just a 66 I picked up off eBay, spares and repairs, but it had been weathered. It's not the nicest job in the world, but for a sort of dummy engine, it looks quite nice. So as I say, it was spares and repairs, took the motor out, so I will have this just to be towed around on the back of a set or in between. The top, I did go ahead and static grass this area and put another coat along here, and then I've come back after with some rubberized horsehair, then some layering spray on that, and then foliage. And to attach it to the static grass, it's all glue gunned in, so it's quite nice and solid. It's not all going to go anywhere. So glue gun, put a splodge of it down, then basically go over it with layering spray, add some scatter over the top, layering spray again, and repeat a couple times as necessary. Try and sort of build up the layers a bit, and then we've got this red scatter that I put over the bushes as if there's some little plants and flowers growing on them, and then a bit of yellow scatter on over the grass areas just to give it a bit of a variation in tone. Now recently I did go to the North Yorkshire Moors Railway with Anthony from AGR, and I did pick up some little trees. I've got one here. So I bought 4 of these trees from a little second-hand shop that's outside Gromont Station. I don't know if you've ever been there before, but opposite the station at Gromont, there's a little second-hand model railway shop. And then, of course, you've also got the excellent shop in the depot itself. And yeah, I picked 4 of these up for a tenner. Obviously, they are a bit luminous. So all I did is I went round it with the layering spray, and then I put some clump foliage over the top. So it's not a clump foliage, sorry, I forget what it's called now, the sort of fine leaf scatter, and I had a few little bits and bobs, so I've mixed some in a bowl and then just scattered that over the top as needed, and it's really toned it down nice. Obviously it's not the loveliest tree in the world, but it gives you a good idea. And then I've used the glue gun to glue the tree base in with some pieces of styrene so that it sits level, because of course with the embankment it was sitting at an angle, so the tree would have pointed outwards. So as I say, built the base up with some styrene, glue gunned it in, that's all sitting happy. And then I've gone round the base with some wooden scenics, Warworld scenics, sorry, earth blend. Let me get the pot, I'll show you what it is. 1 second. That's dry earth. So there you go, Warworld Scenics Dry Earth. Again, this is all pinched from Warder Road Ollie, so thank you very much, Ollie. But obviously it's drying at the minute, so if you want an idea of how it will look, the one over here had the same treatment, and it just gives a bit of a variation, because obviously you don't usually get grass growing under a tree because it's in the shade. So this should hopefully set it off nice. And then we've got a little 3D printed fox there from Scale 3D, looking all cute in the bushes. And I'm sure you'll agree, it gives a nice little sort of scene there. I'm quite pleased. I was going to go with a second tree, but I quite like the look of just the one. But all in all, I think this scene's really come together well. It does really give me some motivation to finally start tackling all this and get some ballast down. However, I really need to push on and get this bridge piece done. So I think we need to concentrate on getting this top section sorted so that it all comes together, and then we'll basically concentrate on that bit after and then work our way this way. So for now, super pleased. So hopefully you enjoyed that little video. Thanks for sticking through. Obviously there's not many running shots at the minute. That is partly because my soldering iron is actually knackered, so I need to get some parts for that. And I haven't got around to putting the bus line in for this yet. So at some point I will wire it up and give it a good test. I'm sure it'll work, but it'll be nice to see some shots of it running. However, if you have stuck through the video, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a comment down below with your thoughts, chuck a like on, and if you feel like it, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, just, I suppose, gets the video pushed out to other people and keeps me motivated. But as for the next one, I think we will try and get this sorted, this finished, this bridge section, and make a start on the brake spear sort of scene to get the ballast in and all that sort of stuff. But we'll see how we go, and it depends how motivated I am. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.